Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to your show of shows. No, that's the wrong program. No, this is the Radio Days with Gary. Radio Days with Gary Music Miller. I'm Dave Black, your co-host. This is Gary Music Miller, longtime radio voice from WKEE in Huntington. I'm sure if you ever turned the radio on in 40 years, you probably heard him once or twice.
From 1978 to 2010.
Bellowing.
You could have heard me.
Bellowing out certain things. Nope, that's an eternity in the radio business, and he spent it all in one place. So at least most of it in one place, we'll put it that way. 31 years in one place.
Yeah.
So that is an eternity in the business. So we are back. We haven't been on in a while. There've been certain things, life happens, things happen. You just got to roll with the punches and do what you can when you can. And so we're back with another exciting, fun-filled episode. I think
this one may be fun.
No,
I really do, and it's one you can participate in.
And like usual, we do not compare our listings of any type beforehand. We might go over a few things, but we don't say what we've got. But however, I'm going to throw it over to Gary, and he's going to go ahead and tell you guys what's going on with today's program.
Thank you.
You're very
much, Dave.
Very welcome.
Appreciate it, and I want to thank you for listening or for watching. I'm sorry, I'll never get out of that radio vein of listening, and this is still a program to me, not necessarily a podcast or whatever the heck.
Well, maybe they don't. Maybe they don't watch. Maybe they just turn the volume up and listen. That's it.
There you go. Okay.
So listeners. Yeah.
Well, I thank you for watching or listening. And or handwriting, hand signaling, and we don't have anybody doing hand stuff, right? We
would do smoke signals, but I'm afraid the alarms would go off in here.
Exactly. But if you're tuning in for one of the first times, he's just told you who I am. I did radio for 40 years in the Huntington, Ashland, Ironton market. And if you are a regular subscriber tuned in, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much for subscribing. And thank you for tuning into us whenever we have a new podcast, if you will, or blog, or whatever you want to call it. And if you have not subscribed, we'd appreciate you doing so. Very simple to do. And that way you're notified when we do have new content, which we try to do a couple times a month, but sometimes it's once a month, sometimes it's 3 times a month, depending on health and depending on the availability of the Museum of Radio and Broadcasting, which we do our show from, mock show. Not a mock show, it's a mock show. But it's a mock setup here. Mock studio, yeah.
And it's
like an old-time radio.
Yeah, this is the place to come. The Museum of Radio and Technology, 1640 Florence Avenue in Huntington. Get out here.
Yeah, it's got radio memorabilia, TV memorabilia of the people involved, and so forth and so on. So let's get into today's topic. A lot of people over the years have asked me what makes a hit song. And I'm sure anybody in the music industry has to deal with that question. Certainly, there are a lot of things that go into making a hit song. Timing, promotion, back when I did it in the 70s and 80s and 90s and 2000s. I'm not sure whether they promote songs anymore or not, or whether you just go somewhere and download them. I don't really know if there's promotion or not. But a hit song is usually comprised of lyrics that hit the heart. Sometimes it's the way the lyrics are delivered. Sometimes it's the words themselves. They have meaning to you. A lot of people listen to music, and I've been surprised over the years to find out that people will listen to songs that have certain drumming. A drummer is a standout, and the drums in the song really drive into that song. Sometimes there are keyboards. I am a keyboard fanatic. There are a lot of songs that feature organ and synthesizer and piano solos that I really dig. And of course, there are the guitarists, guitar people, bass guitar people. A bass line might drive you to a song. But I found out a long time ago, I realized that something that brings me to songs is an incredible brass presence, horn section. There are so many songs out there that feature or rely on horns, and that would include trumpets, trombones, even French horns. Um, I'm probably forgetting a brass instrument, but there are also some woodwinds involved. Saxophones, clarinets, just the entire realm of the sound of a horn section in a song. And most of the songs, I won't say most, but probably a good 50% of the songs that I really like are songs that, the non-ballad songs that I like are songs that feature really strong horn sections. So Dave and I talked about this, and I came up with 5 songs, and I'm going to go back further into the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, and Dave probably does. I'm not sure. Dave may have some of the same. We do not compare notes, as he said. But I have, and I think you're going to be very surprised at my very favorite song that features horns. It's an obscure song, one that's not heard very often, but was a big hit in its day. And by the way, I need to mention, if you're detecting a difference in my voice, somebody actually wrote me on Twitter and said, "You are not Gary Music Miller. You talk like this. You talk so soft." Gary Music Miller was a forceful speaker, so I'm trying to be a little more Gary Music Miller like today and be a little more forceful. So, getting into the topic at hand, if you will, if you're ready. I don't know, do you want to go first, or I want to go first?
Well, it's up to you. Whatever. Yeah, I can go for
Flip a coin.
I've done.
Flip a record. We'll flip a record. Yeah.
The Atlantic label up is heads. No, it's on both sides.
No,
I'll go first.
okay. Well,
let me preface this whole thing by saying that, to me, pretty much through the part of the 60s and in through the 70s, brass sound was dominant.
I don't know that anybody uses it much anymore.
You went in the 80s with the synthesizer stuff and synth pop, and then you went to all this other things.
Yeah.
But you just kind of lost out on the horn section. So, with the exception, and I don't have them on my list, but with the exception of maybe Chicago, which always has a great horn section, I don't have them on my list because that's almost a given.
May I interject? There was,
certainly,
to me, Chicago 1 and Chicago 2. Chicago 1, big brass. Well, I'll mention a couple of their songs here in a couple of minutes if Dave doesn't. But then Chicago sort of took a hiatus, and then they came back with songs like Hard to Say, I'm Sorry. And Chicago 2 was a much more mellow, they did ballads, and they didn't rely as much on the horn section. So
that's Feeling Stronger Every Day is one of my favorite Chicago songs.
My God.
And it just goes and goes and goes.
And goes and goes, yeah.
So
we're doing them 1 through 5, 5 not necessarily being the worst or our least favorite. Yeah. And what would you start out with at number 5?
At number 5 is a band that had 6 chart hits, top 10s, as I might say.
Okay.
None of them went to number 1 on the Hot 100, but they had these chart hits.
Wow!
And that was War with Eric Burdon.
Ah,
They had horns aplenty. Spill the Wine in 1970 went to number 3. The World is a Ghetto went to number 7 in 73.
I actually love that song.
The Cisco Kid went to number 2 in 73. Why Can't We Be Friends went to number 6 in 75.
May I mention the last one?
Lowrider in 1975 went to number 7. And then the
when
last...
I think of war, I think of Slipping Into Darkness.
No, that's not on the list.
Didn't make it.
That didn't make a top 10. But in number 7 in 1976 was a song called Summer.
Yeah.
They just Horns of Plenty.
That was the most bizarre song because on one side of the record, this is when we get two-sided records. On one side of the record, the regular song, Summer, great song, very mid-tempo. And on the other side, when you flipped it over, it was like the Chipmunks singing Summer. It really was. It was sped up. And I'm not sure why. And I'm not sure which version was actually the hit, but I think it was probably the normal.
In the early part of the song, did somebody yell, "Alvin"?
No, they didn't do that. You've got to have a copy of that single. If you have that single, you've got a collector's item.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's my first entry into this whole thing.
Okay. My first entry is one of many songs. It's Spinning Wheel by Blood, Sweat, and Tears from 1968. It opens with a strong brass riff, and in the middle of the song, there's an unbelievable trumpet solo. It's unbelievable.
How'd that go?
That's exactly how it went. It had a magnificent trumpet solo, and it was from 1968. Blood, Sweat, and Tears had a bunch of songs. You Made Me So Very Happy. Go Down Gambling used brass, as did Lucretia McKeeble. And they had, but Spinning Wheel is the powerful brass that I'm talking about. And that's the song that really sticks out in my mind. And I went to see them, and I was so excited when they did Spinning Wheel. It was it was an amazing. They had an amazing brass. I've got to mention a guy's name. The guy is James William Guercio, and I hope I'm saying that right. James William Guercio. Pardon me. I'll be talking about. This is why I don't keep up this voice all the time. It doesn't stay with me all the time. But James William Guercio worked with Blood, Sweat, and Tears and helped develop their sound. And he did the same for another couple of groups, which I'll be mentioning. So he's an extremely important part of the brass element of that period and that group.
Well,
Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Believe it or not, that was on my list as well.
I do believe it.
Also, Spinning Wheel went to number 2 on the Hot 100, number 1 on the AC chart. So,
well, I'm sure that You Made Me So Very Happy
went to number 2.
Was probably a number 1 AC song.
It probably was. I didn't see that. All I saw is it went to number 2 on the Hot 100.
All right.
Okay, my next entry. Now, I don't have a lot of your standard, bog standard or whatever you want to call it, bands listed here. Some of these are just like one and dones and things of that nature. But
where I stuck with bands pretty much that had hits, almost.
Okay, my
next number 1.
Next up on my list was Average White Band. Pick Up the Pieces went to number 1 in 1974. What a brass sound they had!
Wow, they sure did.
You better believe it.
They sure did.
So if you liked Average White Band
is phenomenal.
They were something, and they didn't last too awfully long, but that one song got them over.
And I hate to take your entire list away from you. Number 4, I have actually a tie. We mentioned Chicago earlier. Chicago, 25 or 6 to 4. Does anybody really know what time it is? Beginnings. You mentioned the song.
Yeah. Feeling stronger every day.
Getting stronger every day. Saturday in the Park. They all were early Chicago hits, and they had phenomenal brass sections in them. And
No Tell Lover.
The horn sections. Oh, the horn sections were incredible. Beginnings. I tied them on purpose because I couldn't come up with a favorite. I tied them with Earth, Wind, and Fire. And you think of Earth, Wind, and Fire, you think of songs like September, Let's Groove, Boogie Wonderland. You probably have one or two. Maybe the brass, the horn sections on Earth, Wind, and Fire are unequaled. And when you hear those, like the demo, just, oh my gosh, it made us move. And part of the purpose of brass sections is to drive into your head and make you move. And when I was sitting in a disco in 1976, 77, 78, 79, I had to get up and dance. I had to get up and ask somebody to dance when I heard Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
So
I
tied those two.
I had to do the curly shuffle. So that was,
no wonder I never saw you there. You were kicked out at the door.
That's right. Okay, now, number 3 on my list is from a band that had a hit in 1971, went to number 2 on the Hot 100, and that was Lighthouse with One Fine Morning. I don't have a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the ones you would think of, the big name.
Absolutely.
Lighthouse was a great band, and they had a great song there with One Fine Morning, and they had the brass to back it up.
They had the brass. They had the keyboards. If you listen to the long version of that song, you'll hear brass solos. You'll hear keyboard solos. One Fine Morning is, and the vocal. Oh my God, the vocal. It's just, it's an unbelievable song, and would have made my list probably if I had the room to include it. One Fine Morning's a great song. Number 3 on my list, we got to go back to 1966 and 1967. In 1967, and I have spoken to the lead singer of this band 3 different times. One time he called my house. The group is called the Buckinghams. And I mentioned James William Guercio earlier. James William Guercio helped formulate the Buckinghams, who were not from England, even though they chose that name because the British invasion was so strong. They thought they'd pick a name that kind of sounded British, so they chose the Buckinghams. And the very first single I ever bought was a song called Don't You Care. And talk about brass. I mean, it's all over it. And you can hear that James William Guercio had the founding, whatever the word is I'm looking for, founding roots to that song. To that group, because they were strange. They had 5 top 10 songs. One went to number 1, their very first single, Kind of a Drag, and they followed it up with Don't You Care, Susan, Hey Baby, They're Playing Our Song, and Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. And then they disappeared from the top 5. But during 66, 67, when they were hot, they were outselling every other group that was out there, and that includes the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. They were outselling everyone. And the Buckinghams at the time were a huge band. I mentioned that I spoke to this guy. I talked to him a couple of times. His name is Dennis Tufano. Dennis Tufano was the lead singer of the Buckinghams. And he actually called me at my house one day, and we talked about my hosting his appearance at the Huntington Italian Festival, which he came in and did a show for. And because of the powers that be over at Clear Channel, I guess it was at the time, Clear Channel begat iHeartRadio. At Clear Channel, I spoke to their program director, and the program director said, "We've got our own guy to host the show." And, I said, "Well, you know what? I'd be willing to mention your station, to give nothing but positive." And this guy actually knows that I know his music, and he'd like me to host. And it did not happen. It fell through. So I didn't get to host. But he put on a wonderful show, and he did a lot of hit songs from the 60s. So, Dennis Tufano, if you're out there, hello. And he followed me on Twitter, and we've talked to each other a couple of times there. And that same old name, James William Bercio, I neglected to mention, was a huge part of forming Chicago. So he sort of moved from Blood, Sweat, and Tears and the Buckinghams to Chicago. And he produced them. He brought out that brass sound, and was a wonderful, wonderful influence on music at that time.
Small world, huh?
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
Well, okay, if you're done, number 2 on my list, you've already taken that with Blood, Sweat, and Tears. That their unmistakable frontman, David Clayton Thomas, you knew when he was singing it was Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Man.
No way to get away from that voice. Such a great voice. So I'm going to move on to number 1 on my list, and I don't know if very many people remember this. The song only went to number 17 on the Hot 100, which, in my opinion, was a crime. In 1973, it was by Tower of Power, called "So Very Hard to Go." What a great brass sound they had, and they had a huge band. I mean, it was monstrous.
They could very well be the #1 brass horn section band of all time.
That song is one of my very favorites. It is absolutely
Tower of Power.
Must hear. We'll put it there. Must see TV. Well, that's must hear songs. That's all I can tell you there. And
well, I'm sorry it took up a couple of years.
Oh, that's okay.
I have 2 left. Number 2 for me is a song called "Vehicle" by Ides of March. The Ides of March didn't do a whole lot, but they did "Vehicle," and "Vehicle" has an incredible brass section. Came out in 1970. You remember "Vehicle"?
Oh, loved it.
Your vehicle, baby. I'll take you anywhere you want to go. Jim Petrick, who sang with the Ides of March and who was a part of the founding of Ides of March, left the band, and guess what he formed?
A professional wrestling outfit.
He did not, no.
I was close.
Jim Petrick formed Survivor. He wrote "The Search Is Over." He wrote a couple of their hit songs, and he wrote "Eye of the Tiger." And that's not a bad thing to have on your resume. So,
no, not at all.
Pre-Survivor, Jim Petrick was in from Chicago and was in Ides of March. So there you go.
And one lyric in that song is, "I've got pictures, candy, I'm a lovable man, and I can take you to the nearest star."
That is the lyric.
Pictures and candy.
Yeah, pictures,
well,
candy,
that'll get you a long way, folks.
Well,
pictures and candy.
I don't know whether anybody ever rode with him or not. Who knows?
Well, he was your vehicle.
He took pictures of her eating candy.
Yeah. Well, he was a lovable man. That's
When I think brass, I think one song. And I got to see this group in the 1971 Marshall homecoming concert. I was still in high school, but somebody got me tickets and I went. I really wanted to see Rare Earth. Rare Earth was just the biggest band at the time. They were incredible. And the lead singer, the lead act was Don McLean. who did American Pie and was not exactly what this group was listening for. But the second group to come on was hot at the time. The group was called Chase, and the song was called Get It On. And Dave's tried real hard to get the rights to start the show with that song.
You know what Dave did? He succeeded.
You succeeded?
Yep. That'll be when you see the open to the program, that little snippet of music for the intro, that's the intro to the song Gary's talking about.
That's the song. It's great that you were able to come up with that. I'm so happy you did. When you listen to the beginning, you'll hear nothing but trumpets and horns, and throughout the entire song, trumpets and horns prevail. And this guy's singing, this guy's vocal, gruff, forceful, and I need your love, and I mean, it just drove me crazy.
If you don't remember,
one of my favorite songs of all time.
If you don't remember the song, if it's left your mind, as soon as you hear that open, it'll pop back. You'll say, "Oh, now I know where."
Exactly. Get It On by Chase. It was released, I believe, in 1981. Bill Chase was the name of the guy that formed the band, and I think probably was the lead singer. So you probably hear his voice. It's a good name to come up with. If your name's Bill Chase, let's call the band Chase. The combination of the bass, the horns, the vocals made this a really big song. I don't know. I did not write down how far up the chart it got, but it was a staple on radio at that time. And really, I mean, to me, it is the ultimate horn section.
I thought they named the band after a bank. I was wrong.
Right. No.
Dead wrong.
Now, if we have time, I came up with a masterpiece lyrics. Do we have the time?
My favorite part.
Or are we going to make the time? Actually, somebody commented on yours. Did you write that down by any chance?
I've read it. I don't think we didn't plan on doing a viewer mail thing yet. So
no, somebody did comment that they loved Dave's masterpiece lyrics last time. So I thought I'd do one. I hope this fits the bill. What we do with masterpiece lyrics is we take a lyric to a song, hopefully one you've heard. This one may be one that escapes your mind a little bit, but I will say a little bit about this band. They had 15 studio albums, 10 live albums, 73 singles. They released 73 singles. They went to number 24 with this song in 1978. It first hit, the band first hit in 1974, and this was a two-sided single combined with another single I'll mention in a minute. But here are my interpretations, possibly influenced by William Shatner, the greatest actor to ever live. Bill will hear this one of these days. All right, are you ready? Here we go. Straight face. Bicycle. 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 I want to ride my bike. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike. I want to ride it wherever I like.
Shit.
You say black, I say white. You say bark, and I say bite. You say shark, and I say, hey man, Jaws was never my scene. And I don't like Star Wars either. You say Rolls, I say Royce. You say God, give me a choice. You say Lord, I say Christ. I don't believe in Peter Pan, Frankenstein, or Superman.
Heretic.
All I want to do is ride my bike.
I can't take a drink of water.
Ride my bike. Ride my bike. My bicycle. My bicycle. My bicycle. I want to ride my bike. And I've skipped a few of these because it's so redundant and crazy. Bicycle race are coming your way. Forget all your duties. Oh, yeah. Fat bottom girls, they'll be coming today. So look out for those beauties. Oh, yeah. Bicycle race. Bicycle race. Bicycle race. Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bike. You say, can't even read my own writing yet. You say Coke, and I say Kane. You say John, and I say Wayne. Hot dang, I say cool it, man. I don't want to be the president of America. Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bike. I want to ride my bike wherever I like. Ladies and gentlemen, that is from Bicycle Race / Fat Bottom Girls. Flat Bottom Girls, yeah. Bicycle Race / Fat Bottom Girls, released by Queen. That is a Queen song.
Holy moly.
Went to number 24 in 1978. Again, they hit their first stride in 1974 with Killer Queen, I believe. And they had Bohemian Rhapsody and some other great classics in between that and this one. And I don't know why they released a song about bicycles.
And you know what?
Bicycle race, and fat bottom girls, bicycle. Fat bottom girls make the something world go round, they said.
Let me make the rockin' world go round.
Rock and roll.
He couldn't actually ride his bicycle at all. You know why? Well,
No.
it was too tired.
It wouldn't stand up by itself for that reason. That is my masterpiece of lyrics. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you didn't find it too redundant, but the song is out there. You want to listen to it, check it out on YouTube or your favorite music, whatever the word is.
Yeah. What you should do is actually play an instrumental version and just listen to him. Just mix them together. But if that is all we have for today,
that's enough.
and don't you think it should be? In the future, we've got some people coming to visit us.
Yes,
very, very important people, and people that you should know or should have heard of sometime in your life if you're a radio fan or somebody who's listened a lot. We're not going to go ahead and announce things right now, but
We do have a member of the West Virginia Broadcasting Hall of Fame who we hope to have on within the next
Right.
couple of weeks.
And I'm sure you'll want to.
We have other people. We have some of your favorite DJs from the past. We have people who you may not recognize immediately, but probably will recognize in other parts of the state, possibly. And we don't want to cubbyhole ourselves into Huntington, although my history is Huntington, Ashland, and Ironton. But we hope we have a few people coming from there, and I think we have a few people that may be visiting us from other parts of the state. So
Right.
don't miss an episode. And best way to do it, like, share, subscribe. If you subscribe, you get a notification. Does it come in your email?
Click the little bell that's at the bottom of the video, and you will. Yes. It'll notify you of any brand new content.
Does that come in your email or?
I believe so. If there's I believe there's a option for that. If you check it, it'll happen. So
okay.
But you will when you log on.
Please subscribe. We appreciate you who have subscribed. We are so thankful, and your subscriptions mean a lot to us. It means there's people out there who really appreciate it.
And give us a like, if you would, because it helps the algorithm. It helps the algorithm, and YouTube's big on algorithms. So.
And to share, because I'm sure there's people on your list that I don't have on mine.
Right.
And if you share with all the people, hopefully we've affected and had a good effect on a lot of the people that are in radio.
Hopefully.
And that's a good thing to know. People in radio appreciate it, or were in radio.
Okay. With that said,
it's all about memories and nostalgia.
With that said, I think we're done.
We are.
So we're going to say we hope that everyone. This is being filmed right after 4th of July.
Yeah.
So we hope everyone had a safe and happy 4th of July. Enjoyed your time there, and had some fireworks that you didn't want to hear all night.
For the next week.
Yeah. So we're going to
remember those are the 4th of July, not for the 5th or 6th or 7th. Because we
noise ordinance in Huntington that kicks in at 10 p.m. Thank you.
Yes.
So at any rate, I'm off my soapbox. We're done. We're going to get out of here. We thank each and every one of you for watching. We hope everyone is well. And until next time, God bless everyone. And as he said earlier, bicycle.